people up on the dance floor. It's coming up about 2 minutes past 3 o'clock, and it is my great pleasure, indeed almost an honour.
Yeah.
Almost an honour to have a few of the cast, at least one writer of Funk It Up About Nothin. That's going to be on a drum theatre opening tonight out in Dandenong.
Opening tonight. We're excited.
Yeah.
This is the final leg of our long Australian tour, so.
It has been a bit of an Australian tour, hasn't it?
Yeah. More than just a bit.
More than just a bit. You're young, you'll cope. Let me just introduce you all. Gillian Burford, you're an actor.
That's right, hello.
And I have one of the famous Q brothers, as in JQ.
What up? What up?
Or would that be infamous?
More infamous. G is famous. J is infamous. But sometimes nefarious things.
And the beautiful deep voice is coming from Pos.
Yeah, what up?
Yeah.
Pastel. Yeah.
Okay, I was told Pos. So there you go.
Pos is good.
Yeah.
Pos love.
He responds to a lot of different things, actually.
Jerk works as well.
I mean, this is radio. I'm not sure whether I really want to go there. Funk It Up About Nothin.
I gotta say, your selection has been pretty outstanding.
Yeah.
Our drive over here, we were cranking your music, and it was phenomenal.
Yeah, so. Truly. I was gonna say the same thing, actually.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. That's very nice. It's all down to the Triple R. They give me the 2 hours a week to pump out some tunes. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're going to search for the best in your yard. Rightio, Funk It Up About Nothin. It's really interesting to see that, or to hear that a adaptation of Shakespeare has been done. It's not the first one. That's the first thing I really want to say is that rap and indeed the whole hip-hop aesthetic is taken to Shakespeare in a very big way. Why do you think that is?
I mean, for us, it was an accident. I mean, we were trying to write a piece of theater that was using hip-hop as well, because those were the two passions of my brother and I. But and then what happened is my brother was doing it for a school project and basically ran out of time. And so he just borrowed Shakespeare and was like, let's just rewrite this in rap. And then it turned out to be like the most perfect accident ever, because they're so similar. You know, they're so incredibly similar. And like the wordplay and the levels of humor and the allusions to other things that were happening in pop culture at the time that Shakespeare was doing. And we've gotten real far away from, I think, the essence of Shakespeare. So this really brings it back, I think, in a cool way.
And obviously also the musicality of the writing, you know, the verse.
The rhythm to his words.
The rhythm that's built into the phrasing.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, and Shakespeare, even during his time, he wrote songs into his work, so it makes sense that we would take his work and then turn the whole thing into song.
Yeah, because like Bobbity of Errors is another one. That was the very first one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I think there had been experiments in hip hop Shakespeare before that. The Fugees had done a little thing.
That's it.
But
Macbeth.
The Bobbity was the first time that it had been, I think, really
fleshed out, turned into a full-on piece from
production.
Beginning to end. Had several different acts and beginning, middle,
told
and
the story for real.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the other thing, what we were talking about previously off air, is that when I was a kid growing up, I never realised that. I always thought that Shakespeare was some rich person that had written all this stuff that people paid a shitload of money.
It's so lofty, right? It appears that way.
It appears lofty, but it's also that his work has actually been made into a very high art form where people pay an extraordinary amount of money to go to the theatre and to see his plays being performed. And let's face it, it's in some ways it's like classical music where it's almost like covers. It's like versions of the same words and whatever else. You guys have kind of twisted them and put like a contemporary aesthetic.
Yeah, I mean, I think
words.
that like people forget that like Shakespeare was a rock star.
Yeah.
Mozart was a rock star. These guys were crazy, you know? Like they were awesome. They were the stars of their time. And they weren't like making they weren't making something that was unapproachable. They were making music for the people, for real, you know? And like that's what I think the most striking thing is we get when people come out of our show and talk to us afterwards is they go, like that made me realize that that's what it must have been like to see Shakespeare at the time.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely. Yeah.
And I think if he were alive today, that's the kind of thing he'd be writing in this vernacular, you know.
So when you go on to London from here, yeah, or you go home and then
for about 20 hours.
That's the way. London, so. You can pick up some clean clothes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We go to Royal Theatre, Stratford East, which is the opposite of the West End, which is cool. Like I think we're going to be in the right place. It's a really ethnically diverse area, and they're really supporting. They do like cheaper tickets, and they pack this big place, you know. So it should be really cool.
Excellent. And I guess you're going to be going and have a bit of a look at the Globe Theatre too.
Yeah, I've seen
of course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the RSC and stuff like that. Yeah. I actually studied over there, and it was like, there's so much crazy Shakespeare going on over there. I mean, let alone classical and just theater in general. But it's going to be nice to actually kind of for them to see what we're doing compared to what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting what you're saying about Shakespeare and Mozart and all those dudes being rock stars as well, because they had that whole rock star aesthetic as well. Like Voltaire hated Shakespeare, and they would diss each other in verse.
In verse, and put allusions to each other's things in their plays.
Yeah, they would battle, like with sonnets, actually. The sonnets were like straight up battles, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was like a battle rap.
Yeah, for real.
Cool.
Yeah.
So when you go over there and you meet all of these kind of very serious people doing their very serious kind of Shakespeare interpretations and whatever else, I mean, of course you're going over there with your own thing of you're very proud of what you're doing, but you must think, geez, I hope I get up their nose. I hope this is going to wake them up a little bit.
I mean, you know, to some extent you want it to like to rub some people the wrong way. The worst thing you can hope for is to like, you know, basically you want either people to love it or hate it, because if they're just, that was okay, then you don't want that. You didn't strike them, you know what I mean? So I'd rather be, some people hate it than everyone walk out indifferent. You know what I mean?
The thing I always say is bad is better than boring.
Oh, damn straight. It's like when you describe an album as being interesting.
Oh, worst thing ever.
Yeah, I know, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
wrong and strong, wrong and strong.
Right, wrong and strong, baby.
So for the ladies in the house, tell us.
Yeah, for the ladies. This one's for the ladies.
These guys over here are just talking way too much.
Yeah, they always do.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Funk It Up About Nothin. It is based on Much Ado About Nothing.
Right.
Tell us about it. What's the storyline?
Well, I think that the storyline we've changed it just a little bit. I mean, the storyline basically is about Benedict and Beatrice and sort of their love for each other, and Claudio is also one of the guys in the play, and Hero is another couple, and Claudio and Hero, it gets all messed up. Like,
you play Hero.
I play Hero, and she's basically accused of doing it with someone that she didn't do it with, and Claudio accuses her in a very public way, and in Shakespeare's version, Hero is a very flat character, the boys, when they rewrote it, they gave her a chance to really sort of like come back in the end, and she sort of does like a Sandra Dee, you know, like she like goes from being like really sweet and naive to like coming back and like really sort of chewing out Claudio and like teaching him a lesson, and I think that. I don't know why Shakespeare didn't do that in the first place.
He was historically pretty bad to his female characters.
I actually don't. I don't entirely agree with that.
I mean, in especially in this play, he's really terrible with it. Like, Benedict will have like 4 pages of like incredible verse that is so witty, and then Beatrice will have like a half a page of an identical scene, and Hero says like 7 lines in the whole play. She's just being thrown around doing, you know, whatever.
But I agree with you on Shakespeare and his female parts, though. I mean, Juliet was always painted as being a victim and being manipulated more than anything else. In fact, the woman had a brain.
Yeah, definitely. But the thing is, I kind of disagree on that point. I think Juliet is like really actually one of the best characters ever written in the history of the canon of all theater. She's kind of like the strongest person. And if you think about it, Romeo, who's considered a rebel, he backs out of a lot of different things, but Juliet is the one who really pushes the action in their love and everything else, and is the one who actually is willing to take her life for stuff. I mean, I don't know. We could debate that forever, but yeah.
I think the thing is, like, in this play, like the female characters are really flat, and it wouldn't have been satisfying to a modern audience that people now wouldn't buy it, you know? Yeah. I mean, maybe you'll buy it if it's in the old language, but not when it was updated. We were going through it, and we're just like, a girl who's speaking this way, the way we speak, like in a modern time she wouldn't deal with this. She'd tell him off, you know what I mean? And so we just had to go with that, instinct. And we had like the people at Chicago Shakespeare that help us workshop it. They really encouraged us to go and take free reign at the end. And they were like, make it satisfying for you and no one's going to care. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We're going to go to a track now for a guy who's never been scared of speaking his mind, and he's probably the godfather. Yeah, he is the godfather of a lot of this kind of movement and the music that it actually came from. Of course, it's Gil Scott-Heron, and of course, it's Jamie XX.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that I have those mighty people in the house right this minute, Gillian and JQ and Poss, I believe. That's what I'm going to call you. Sorry, man, you're stuck with it. You're stuck with it. Yeah. Okay, so one of the things I find really, really interesting is, like, reggae was the first kind of black music that swept the world after soul and funk that really made such a huge impression on every culture. Yeah. Like, you can go to any village in Africa and you'll still find a cassette of Bob.
Yeah.
And that paved the way for hip-hop. And it paved the way.
Yeah, hip-hop kind of directly comes from it.
Came out of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you look at the first turntable manipulations, and Cool Herc, all of that, we all know our history.
Yeah, exactly.
But now, hip-hop is now, what I really enjoy is happening at the moment is that whole idea of the original hip-opera, putting Bizet's Carmen, whether it was successful or not. Right. It was with Mos Def and I think Beyonce and the others. Mm-hmm. It was a good effort to be able to say, that could be your story, it could be our story as well. Let's see what we can do with this. Uh-huh. Where do you see yourselves going after this? After Much Ado About Nothing, are you going to tackle more of Shakespeare, do you think?
Yeah,
we already are.
Yeah. I mean, my brother and I, the goal is to actually have the entire canon and do it, really. And so that when you go to any library in any school, there's the complete works of Shakespeare and the complete hip-hop works of Shakespeare. And I want them right next to each other. And, somebody who knows what they'll call the newest thing in 100 years, Bligglorp, and then they'll have the complete Bligglorp works of Shakespeare. You know what I mean? So, I think people should keep keep reinventing it because, he just reinvented what the Greeks did anyway. And
That's
so
right.
we're all doing, we're all borrowing, and you're playing a lot of sample-based stuff too, or mostly you're playing stuff that people sampled. But we're all sampling at all times. Every movie you see, every book you read, every music you listen to becomes part of you. And when you put yourself into something, you're using them. You know what I mean? Well,
it's like a lot of this new kind of global electronica that's coming out, like flamenco beats and whatever else. That is the future folk.
Yeah. And even look at
future world.
Look at pop music. Even you look at things that the kind of beats that people are rapping and singing on now are rhythmically more interesting than they ever have been. Even if the pop songs you don't like the content, but like you listen to a Gnarls Barkley record or you listen to Andre 3000, the kind of beats that they're using, the rhythms, are more intricate than they ever have been before. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's super cool.
And it's really to me, it's also just always about sounds. So as soon as something sounds new to you, then you know that it's coming from some place that's raw. You know what I mean? And it's just about sounds.
As long as it has a bass.
Yeah, okay, got it.
It has to have the bass.
Definitely, got it.
You're a dub girl.
Yeah. Of course, come on. That goes without saying.
Which is why we don't play MP3s. Okay, so in terms, we've already said, that whole idea of wanting to shake people out of their complacency or whatever else, to say, well, you think you know Shakespeare. This is how we perceive Shakespeare. What has been the reaction back in Chicago? Like when you first started down this journey and doing it?
I think that almost every single person that I talk to loves it, and that goes for the very, very elderly and the young. I mean, we have like 8-year-olds in the audience, and we have like 70-year-olds in the audience, and I think that, like Shakespeare, it appeals to different people. It's kind of like I think like a really good Disney movie where like the adults can laugh at like the secret sex jokes and the babies can laugh at the cartoon stuff. Like
we usually describe it as like The Simpsons.
Yeah, which is
there's something they can do a joke and everyone in the room will be laughing, but for a different reason. You know what I mean?
I mean,
I think good comedy is like that.
Really taken to it, and especially our Australian tour, we've done a lot of regional theater where they haven't seen a lot of, I would say, diversity or anything like this before. And everyone that we come into contact with, we've made a connection with, even if it's just them sitting in the audience or talking to us after the show or hanging out with us for hours or the whole week. It really hits people because it's so fun and everybody involved is so heartfelt, and that I think radiates through the theater and through the it's a connection. Like Shakespeare did it and hip hop does it, and now we get to ride it too. And everybody's been awesome and supportive, and it's been beautiful.
It has been really cool. Yeah.
You're obviously also doing something very, very right as well, because as I understand it, to call yourself a Shakespeare company or to call a entity, you got to jump through a few hoops.
Yeah, well, the Chicago Shakespeare Theater is not like they're not one of these companies that has a group of actors. Yeah. So they do different works and hire based on that. So it's not like a set group of people. But they've been really cool, being that they usually do more standard Shakespeare, and them going out on a limb for us like this and funding a lot of this and really workshopping it till it's it. And they made it very clear. They're like, we don't want it to feel like we theaterized hip hop. We want it to feel like you're coming in and funking up the theater. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's, I think, it's successful because of that.
Yeah.
And they're actually, Chicago Shakespeare itself is like one of the preeminent, really Shakespeare theaters in the world. And basically, it seems to me that they wanted to see Shakespeare done anew. They wanted to see it a different way. They wanted to see, kind of like what Shakespeare did. He traveled around, took stories, and created new things from them. They wanted to see that happen with the thing that they've devoted their company to.
Yeah. So. They got it.
But
they got it.
On the other side of that too, like there's the theater goers that love it, but we just did the Platform Hip Hop Festival in Sydney and had great. We had packed houses and a great response from them as well, and those were mostly the hip hop community. I feel like more so than a theater-going crowd.
Yeah,
which is cool.
That's really cool, actually. Yeah,
but it's like the hip-hop community can kind of get it, that you're just taking over. Yeah, it's just global domination by stealth, really, isn't it? You're taking over the classics now. You're not stopping anywhere.
Well, the thing is, the thing about it is, this is a really cool thing. This guy named, a guy who's kind of a hero of ours, a guy named Lord Jamal Allah, who was the member of a group called Brand Nubian, a legendary hip-hop group in the 90s, early 80s. I worked with him one time, and he said to me, he was like, hip-hop is the only art form that can take anything and turn it into, and it can adapt anything and turn it into something that sounds new. Yeah. Anything. It can take country. It can take classical. Yeah. It can take Shakespeare.
It's cool. Reggae can do it as well.
What'd you say?
Reggae can do it as well.
Sure, but that's where it comes from. So,
yeah, it is cool. It's like hip-hop, by the definition, the idea is that you sample and you steal things and then you make them fresh. So as long as people keep coming up with things at all, we're going to jack them.
Exactly. Just like we jacked reggae.
Quite well. It's kind of extraordinary that this kind of show, if you like, is being held out at Drum Theatre out in Dandenong, where most of the listeners, I guess, are thinking, well, why isn't it the Malthouse, or why isn't it in Carlton? It's because Drum Theatre and a whole bunch of other regional theatres took the chance and took the risk and brought you suckers over
big up to them. Big up to the Drum Theatre.
Yeah. And really, that's was the sort of the mission statement of the producer from the beginning, was to not do your average spot in every city, was to take it to the regional theaters where people wouldn't have seen anything like this and bring it to people. You know what I mean?
And people are really responding. Just today we did a little promo in a mall. In the middle of a mall, in the middle of a food court. Yeah, right next to the KFC and the Ho Inn. And people were walking up to us, women who had their kids there, babysitting their kids, and other guys on their break from from their construction jobs and were just like, how can we see this? You know?
Yeah. So it opens tonight out at Drum Theatre, which is on Lonsdale Street in Dandenong. How exciting is that?
We're real excited.
Yeah.
It's like a little bittersweet because this is we're a little sad that this is our last stop in Australia, but I think that's gonna make the shows even more powerful because we're gonna leave everything on stage. You know, we don't have to save it for anything.
No, that's it.
Kitchen sink theatre. Is what I like to call it.
So it's tonight, and then it's Friday night and Saturday night.
That's right.
Yes.
At 8:00, and people can go and find out more about it at funkitup.net.au.
Oh, is that true? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. They can also go like it on Facebook. I think it's Facebook/funkituptour.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna keep up, and you can email me directly on
And you can Google.
stuff.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Google Funk It Up and you'll find everything.
Everything.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah. And if people want to buy tickets to the show, they can get it from the funkitup.net.au website or drumtheatre.com.au
I think there's some deals out there too. You guys gotta be
deals out there.
You gotta be stealthy, but you could probably find some.
I reckon.
Exactly. There's no excuse not to make it. For real.
That's it. Go on,
You know what I'm saying? There's even a train station like just a couple blocks away. You know what I'm saying?
They are actually tonight is really cool. Greg is bringing he got a bus.
Yeah.
People from Melbourne that's going to be packed and bring them out and then bring them back because people want to come out, but they're like, then I can't have a drink, and so they got a bus, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so drink on the bus.
We're going to finish up with a track by another guy who likes to say a couple of words, and he's actually one of my favourite. He is my favourite British hip hop guy. I've got to say, his name's Roots Maneuver, and he's done an album with Wrong Tom.
Nice. Yeah.
Album with Wrong Tom, and we're going to hear from you. Thanks, guys, for coming in. Good luck.
Thanks for having us,
you.
Systa BB.
It's a pleasure.